0 seconds.
Hello, crazy cats. It is Matt here, and I thought.
Press any button, The Last of Us Extra Left Behind. Would you like to prioritize the download of? Question mark. Yes. Left Behind. Play additional chapters set during the last
Yes, I would like to go away. Anyway.
Hometown. Jackson. Hometown.
So, today we are doing a redo.
X button. Select. Circle button. Back.
We are doing a redo of the entire cutscene list because I realized I forgot some cutscenes in my last video. So this time we're gonna redo it, and hopefully I won't fall asleep and stop recording right in the middle. See you guys later in another video with my voice in it. Bye.
Good night, baby girl. 20 years later. Good night.
White words appear over a black background. Sony Interactive Entertainment.
Skip this. Yeah, you completed replay. Exit. Good night, baby girl. Duration 2 minutes 13 20. Good night.
Hi, I'm Neil Druckmann, creative director.
And I'm Troy Baker, I played Joel.
And I'm Ashley Johnson, and I play Ellie.
So first cinematic here, you'll see as we get to the end, I mean, this opening image, we wanted to match what we did at the end with image of Ellie.
I think it's such an interesting thing to start off with, not only in the past, but also to start off basically.
Yeah, that's one of the things we were discussing as we're iterating on this opening sequence, because it used to be, it was all seen through Joel's eyes. But then it became a lot more interesting to think of it as you're seeing it through Sarah's eyes, because Sarah is really kind of, the whole game is about this relationship between Joel and Ellie, but here Sarah is kind of embodies what their relationship is going to eventually become.
And that was probably one of the hardest roles to cast too, with Sarah.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people that came in, and I love that this scene was, you know, that was one of the audition scenes. And it was so amazing when Hannah came in that it just, I mean, what you're seeing right now, that was the chemistry, and she was amazing. It's like, kind of like a younger Dakota Fanning. Just, there's an old soul behind those eyes.
Yeah, and she could turn it on and off between each take.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, she was crazy. She's amazing.
It's always a little awkward, right? You have a 12-year-old someone on the set, and you're doing this pretty dark stuff.
Especially with the way that we work, too.
All right, let's hold off on some of the jokes today, guys.
We started helping out with the mortgage then.
Yeah, you wish.
And this piece of music, actually, we were struggling to find which piece to play here. And then Gustavo wrote this thing for the VGAs just to play before we showed the trailer. And right away I heard it, I was like, that's got to go in the opening. This is the theme kind of like the relationship between Joel and his daughter that later becomes the theme between Joel and Ellie.
Hallican Drops,
Pelican Drops.
the name of the band on her t-shirt. And where did you get that?
My daughter came up with that. My 2.5-year-old daughter named one of her dolls that. And we're searching for a name for a band. I'm like, I got a name for a band.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay next.
So this is going to be the first time that I've ever seen this scene. This was one specifically that I really didn't want to once we did it. And when we first talked about doing this in the very, very beginning, I knew this scene was going to come. And I told you, I was like, give me a heads up when this day comes, because it's not going to be a good one.
Well, the thing with this scene, it's a super difficult scene to shoot. The first time we shot it, we did like at least 15 takes or something crazy like that. And then we thought we had it in the can. And
well, I thought.
Well, no, we all thought. We thought we came back to work and we started putting it in. And for me, there was just something that was, I felt like we could convey the same amount of emotion with less.
Yeah.
And it was a hard thing to tell Troy because everybody put so much into it, and it's like, we got to do it again.
Well, I remember that
we got to
day
come back to this.
when you came back and you told me that we have to do this again. Obviously, you know, you'll see why what we're talking about. But this is the defining moment for Joel. This is where he draws that line in the sand, where he has few moral lines left to cross. I'm so amazed with how well Hannah did, and
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult to watch just on the mocap stage. And we actually had people, after a few takes, leave the set. They were like, I can't watch this anymore, and they just took off. But from a story standpoint, it's so important to show just what the violence does and how it like rips apart this family.
Well, and especially a lot of times in video games, you see blatant violence, but when you personify it and you put it on a face, especially that young face, and you see the devastation that just one life lost can do, and it's just, I mean, this was such a hard day, such a hard day for both of us. I mean, it was exhausting for her, it was exhausting for me.
So the opening credits, the thing with the opening, initially we didn't want to do opening credits, didn't even have the idea for this, but the jump felt too sudden to go from Sarah dying to then 20 years later.
And making up.
We found that when people watch it in succession, they're not paying attention when we start introducing Tess in the world because they're still recovering from Sarah dying. So we're like, okay, well, let's have this opening sequence that can kind of help bridge the gap. And just had the idea of just seeing this time-lapse video of fungus growing, because so much of the disease and the outbreak is based on this cordyceps fungus that spread through spores. So we contacted a group at Sony San Diego who did this whole opening sequence for us, and they actually got these fungal kits where they grew fungus like in their bathrooms and filmed this over like days to produce this thing.
So everything you're seeing is actually, it's real, it's not CG, it's all organic.
Yeah, except for the spores at the end, which are CG, everything is real. This whole journey is like a dreamlike state, and you constantly see people waking up. And you see this multiple time with Joel, and it's as if he's like remembering the past, he's always having these bad dreams throughout the game.
That was always something that we had to keep in mind when we did this scene, because we shot this before we shot Sarah dying scene, so it's kind of like we knew that those were going to be in one way or another kind of butted up against each other. But this is such a great thing. Again, this was in the audition thing that we did when we were trying to find Tess, and when Annie walked in, it was just like she walked in as Tess. We saw a lot of different people for that, and this was just such a great, because the relationship you see from going from Sarah and Joel to now Joel and Tess, it's just, I don't know, you see everything, like the house that he was in before was nicer. He looked nicer, and it's not just the years have passed, but those years that have passed haven't been
This also
kind.
gets into something interesting for me as a writer, which is you have a certain notion of characters or how you want the structure to be, and then once it's interpreted through actors like Troy, it changes. Like I've always imagined as Joel doesn't really care for Tess. He's completely shut down, and Troy treated it differently, which is I think he really cares for Tess, and even though he might not show it, and we just kind of embraced that. And you kind of see that later when Tess gets infected. That wasn't how the scene was originally envisioned, that Joel has such a reaction, but it became a lot more interesting to own that.
Well, and also how much this relationship changed over, I mean, time and different writing iterations and just conversations that we had about this. Even, within the last month or so, we've had conversations about this. It's like, what is their relationship? Because we never define it. I think anybody else would have put it on the nose, they're lovers or whatever. There was one note that you gave, it's like, for one specific take, and said, let's just assume that there was a fight last night over what, we don't know. This is that moment afterwards. So it was like this awkward tension between the two of us. But there's no like loving embrace, there's no kiss that Joel and Tess have. It's just such an interesting relationship.
And the challenge was to try to, how much can we convey just through nonverbal interaction?
Right.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic replay. Next.
Our first torture scene.
And it's with the lovely Robin Atkin Downs, which I was just joking and saying that it's not a Naughty Dog game if Robin isn't getting the shit kicked out of him.
He's been in every game since Uncharted 1.
And we just put him through the ringer on this one. Poor guy.
It was important to show just how far Joel has come, from the father you see in the opening sequence to here is a man that is willing to torture someone to just get
what is
essentially
interesting.
money in this world.
Right, but it's interesting because he's like that brutal enforcer. It's kind of like that scene in LA Confidential where he's Russell Crowe. She's running the show. She's the dominating one, and I'm just brought in to be the muscle.
She's the brains of the operation.
Yeah, clearly.
Stop!
Cool.
Quit your squirming.
That's all Robin's expressions too. It's so great. They did such a great job with the facial.
Yeah, it's important to note also, all the facial is hand animated. We don't use any facial mocap. We find that we get better results with our animators.
And it almost becomes one-to-one.
Yeah.
It's just genius. Here it is. Wait for it.
Give me a week.
You know, I might have done that if you hadn't tried to fucking kill me.
Vote of hesitation. It's gonna cost you.
I can't.
We re-edited that. We used to show the break, and actually it was less brutal than when we didn't show it.
When you didn't show it?
Yeah, when it's left to your imagination, it's a lot worse.
Yeah, but just you can see the way that his arms positioned. But yeah, you're right. This is so revealing, not only about the relationship, but about, again, who Joel has become. To go from a father who just cares about, keeping his nose down and keeping the job and playing by the rules, to being a guy who could just literally break some guy's arm over guns. It's just crazy.
Come on. Yeah, fuck those fireflies. Just go get them.
She loved doing that scene too, and he loved that. She tried not to smile every time. And I love it's just business as usual. It's back to it. It's like, all right, so now what?
And we're about to meet very talented Merle Dandridge.
Ah, Merle. Now, here's something interesting about this. Again, going back to the audition, that process. We saw a bunch of different girls, even girls that we had originally seen for Tess, we brought back to see.
And they're all really
Marlene.
good.
They're fantastic.
And then Merle came in and just,
And
there
I
was
wasn't,
no question.
and I wasn't there for that. And
Ashley can chime in on
Or
it.
no.
Ashley was part of the audition for Merle.
When she came in, it was hands down.
Yeah.
It's like, that's Marlene, come on.
It's funny that all three of us knew like right away that, yeah, she needs to play Marlene.
But you said we ended up setting up a special thing just for her.
Yeah.
Because you're like, you've got to see her. I want you to
Yeah,
see her.
we had callbacks, and she was busy. She couldn't make it. And we had a special day of callbacks just to bring her in because we felt really confident that she could do it.
'Cause I felt like she was the only one who didn't play it all either super tough.
Or street, yeah.
Yeah, she kind of had
Yeah,
the
she
perfect
really straddled that
combination.
line.
It was so great. But we did that first scene in the audition, literally first take, first scene. And she exits. It's at the very end of the game, and she turns around, she exits, and I turned around, look at Neil. I was like, I just mouthed, "Are you kidding me?" It's like,
And
it
I
was
mouthed,
done.
I told you so.
Yeah, she did such a great job. This is another kind of thing that I think is interesting that's happening in video games, where we see two really strong women characters, female characters that aren't being over-sexualized. They're just strong women.
You completed the cinema replay. Next.
Here we go. Ellie's introduction.
Yep.
And this stuff is all shot out of sequence. So it's I don't know, maybe you guys should talk about the process of how you get into that state.
I'm trying to remember that. I just really like the fact that the first time you see Ellie, you see her knife first.
Right.
I just think that's
You see that
kind of
she's a
awesome.
fighter.
Yeah. I forgot that was the first time that you saw Ellie. That was the first scene. That just from the get-go, she's fighting.
Yeah, but it's not just she's fighting because she really cares for Marlene. That was kind of
Yeah.
the crux of this, is that you see these two characters really care for one another. And I love in such a short time you see between Marlene and Ellie, there's this connection that's so
Right.
important because that has to carry through to the end of the game when Marlene shows up again.
Well, even like just the positioning of the two people. I mean, it's Joel and Tess versus Ellie and Marlene.
And just like, it's so interesting watching, right, Joel here doesn't even make eye contact with her. He doesn't even acknowledge her existence.
Right.
She's not crossing to that part of town. I want Joel to watch over her.
Whoa, I don't think that's the best
Ellie.
Our first fight.
Here we go.
Bullshit!
I was close with his brother Tommy. Said if I was ever in a jam, I could rely on him.
Was that before or after he left?
Just reminding the player, like this guy you saw in the beginning, Joel's brother, he's changed too, and he's been involved.
Yeah.
Just get hints of,
There's a falling out between the two of them.
And it's just as you go on, you're starting to fill in that 20-year gap.
Just cargo, Joel.
No more talking.
Which is pretty true to your writing too, because I'm like, so what happened here? It's always, what do you think?
What do you think happened there? Because I have no idea.
'Cause I don't have the time to write it.
Don't take long. And you, stay close.
For Joel, right, that's a hint. It's like, I don't want to be around this kid.
Right.
Because some subconscious part of him knows I could get hurt here.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic.
Is it?
First moment alone.
What does Joel do?
Time for bed.
Takes a nap.
I'm tired.
What are you doing?
Killing time.
I do really like this scene.
Well, what am I supposed to do?
I am sure you will figure that out.
It's a great moment.
It's another one of those moments too where it's like it just feels like Joel is just always exhausted, like this world is just bearing down on him.
But I love that moment too, where she points out the watch, where we get to establish that watch that.
Yeah, and that's
Sarah
something we
gave me.
didn't have in the beginning. That's actually something we inserted after the fact. Not for this scene, but there's another scene where we have that.
But I also love, like you said, the kind of the juxtaposition between Joel and Ellie, to where Joel's just, like you said, weary and exhausted, and you have this total opposite, almost antithetical thing of like this naivete and this childlike behavior that's wanting to explore. And it
here
shows up in this.
she's talking about having bad dreams, like the idea that they are both carrying this baggage with them, and it's how they first connect.
Look how dark it is. Can't be any worse out there.
Hmm.
Can it?
What on earth do the Fireflies want with you?
Hey. Sorry it took so long. Soldiers fucking everywhere.
How's Marlene?
What a great moment. He finally addresses her, finally connects on that level, and that moment's interrupted.
Well, it's also the first time kind of Ellie, if you think about it, opens up to him. She's saying, I'm scared, right? That was the subtext of
Yeah,
that question.
that's true.
Go get some guns.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay the same cinematic, or exit to the main menu. Next.
Don't do anything stupid.
Move.
Turn around, on your knees.
It's such an interesting thing that we're like 2 hours into the game, and we're still the enemy, if there is one. Or there's other humans, there's other people. They're on other sides of the law, but there's no infected, there's no clickers, there's no anything.
Look the other way. Gonna make this worth your while.
Shut up. What's ETA?
Couple minutes.
Love the attention to detail, the rain falling off their faces. And, that she's the one that strikes out first.
Then it's interesting how Joel instinctively, when a gun is pointed at Ellie, he acts.
Yeah.
Again, there's something subconscious that he feels like he has to protect this girl. Even if he doesn't realize it yet.
Here it is.
Marlene set us up.
So this is starting to build up that conflict between Joel and Tess.
Yeah.
And this is something we struggled in the story for a long time, is like, how do we motivate this guy that shouldn't really want to do this mission? How do we get him to take on this mission to carry Ellie across the country? And it was through Tess. So if we get Tess to really buy into this thing, and then we, Tess gets infected, then she can convince Joel to take this on. At least initially, at least until we can spend long enough time with Ellie so they can connect.
Yeah.
And then it becomes about something else.
I'll also say, Ashley, when we were doing this, the way that you conveyed fear, because that's a very scary situation that you're in, because you felt like your back was against the wall.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic.
This is where we really, this is where we can show you the difference between Joel and Tess.
Yeah, because you're starting to see Tess really kind of buy into this, and you see some hope.
Well, the thing I like about your performance here is you really get the sense of the conversation she's had with Marlene and the struggles she's been going through the past 3 weeks.
She said that they have their own little quarantine zone with doctors there still trying to find a cure.
It's where you see just deep inside how much Tess is desperate for any kind of redemption.
Whatever happened to me is that...
Remember, Ashley, we were talking about the scene and the idea that Ellie's not sure she believes in this thing. She feels this whole thing is insane and ridiculous.
I remember that.
I believe the direction I gave you was like, imagine you're giving yourself a compliment.
Yeah. If you as a person in real life found out you were the cure for mankind.
I'm kind of awesome.
Yeah, you
apparently.
wouldn't-
So
And
I am the
especially
Messiah.
In that 3 weeks, you wouldn't, it'd be hard to own that.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay the same cinematic.
All right. Now watch your step as you're going out, because it's going to be a little.
Little brat.
I love the dynamics of this scene where it's like Tess has this secret, right? She's bitten. She's not telling Joel or anybody yet. Joel here for the first, again, he's connecting. He can't help it.
Is that everything you hope?
It's the first time he's like saying something semi-nice to Ellie.
But there's still this layer of cynicism behind it.
He gets taken away by that childlike wonder. And this is something we added after the fact, the watch. The watch wasn't, we didn't have the watch at the time.
Yeah.
And Joel was just crossing his arms, and I asked the animators to like, oh, could you just flip his wrist and have him look at the watch?
Yeah.
This moment is reminding him of Sarah.
Yes, ma'am.
I love that it's almost a warning from Tess to Joel, like kind of like last words.
It's like this determination, and you're not sure why. What's
Yeah.
different now, Tess?
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay the same cinematic.
No. No, no, no.
Tess's desperation.
What happens now?
I love like, and it totally comes across without many words or anything, just through the expressions on Joel's face, which is, I've put up with this long enough.
Right.
This is over. I've indulged you enough,
Where's
Tess.
this lab of theirs?
Oh, she never said. She only mentioned that it was someplace out west.
What are we doing here? This is
Yeah,
not.
that calm, pacifying, trying to talk some sense into you.
I know that you are smarter than this.
Really?
Right.
Guess what? We're shitty people, Joel. It's been that way for a long
I
time.
love the fact that her character, she knows she's gonna die any minute, but she's still holding on to so much hope.
Yeah.
I'm not
That, well, she's different.
going anywhere.
Right.
Look at her bite. The world could still change.
And it's kind of this theme that, like, this idea of, I've done all this crappy things, but it's all okay if I could do this one thing right.
Right.
And that kind of moves over to Ellie. And we see that theme later when Ellie, like, talks about it can't be for nothing.
I got to point this out. Everybody else, because this was a part of the audition scene too, everyone else did that "don't touch me." They screamed it out. And I love the way she did that, where it was like that first, "don't touch me." And it's
Yeah.
just that realization. And I love the fact that Ellie's the one that figures it out, not Joel.
Oh, Christ.
And again, the back and forth Annie's doing between this freaking badass to such vulnerability and constantly jumping back and forth. And she brought that every take. And we're all like, because every take she's like full on crying by the end of it.
She's incredible. You're right. She's such a badass, but she was so vulnerable at the same time. It's just such a,
Shows
Hard
two
thing to
sides of the
play.
same strength too.
God, I'm such an Annie fan.
You have to feel some sort of obligation to me, so you get her to Tommy's.
I remember you coming out of a take, and Troy's like, look at me, he's like, you don't understand. You're not right there staring into her eyes.
Yeah.
I can buy you some time, but you have to run.
You want us to just leave you here?
Yes.
There is no way that.
This moment where like Joel's like in denial, is like, there's something I could do. They're not even understanding, like, she's gone. She's already gone. There's nothing he could do right now.
And also, she is just laser-eyed on Joel doing that, even though she's talking to Ellie.
No, just go. This fucking
Tess has to snap him out of it. It's like, you know that you have to do it.
Ellie.
And I believe this is the first time Joel refers to Ellie by her name. I don't think anywhere else in the game he does that. Beforehand. And again, it was important to stay. We stay with Tess, just showing. Here's her emotions finally coming through when Joel is gone.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay the
Like I don't remember if we talked about this, but Ellie has just this, clearly a problem with authority where somebody's telling her what to do.
Yeah, for sure. I think that also I have a problem with authority. So that came out a little bit in Ellie.
Tess. I don't even know what
Here's how this thing's gonna play out. You don't bring up Tess.
Yeah, that's so. Joel knows what he needs to do to survive, which is just let go. Needs to let go fast of these things, or they will kill you.
Don't tell anybody about your condition. They'll
That's
think you're
great.
crazy little
I love that he refers to
child. And lastly, you do
that as her
Condition.
what I say.
You very acknowledge. Just
We're
he's still
trying to search for the term for it. You being the whole cure for humanity thing.
Good.
I love that he
Close
says good,
enough.
but the subtext is clearly like, all right, good enough.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna get out of this kid.
Good chance he could get us a car.
Okay.
Let's get a move on.
You completed the cinematic.
Hey, it's Bill.
Lovely Earl Brown.
whoop whoop.
I remember you were kind of geeking out when you auditioned with him.
I was. We saw like a lot of people for Bill, and there was a lot of like stars that came in. I was really surprised. Like, but then when he walked in, I was like, holy crap, it's Dan Dougherty from Deadwood.
He's amazing to work with. I've worked with him before a while ago, and I just love working with him.
You actually hit him in this scene in the face.
That's right.
I did.
Right there, and we kept it. And he kept going. What a trooper.
That's one of my favorite things, is when he goes, am I
Yeah.
dead?
He was sick that day.
Yeah.
He was like getting over a cold.
I did hit him, and I felt so bad because it was a complete accident. I think I didn't realize my swing was going a
That
lot
was
faster
the
than I thought it
first
was.
of many people that you hit during the shoot of this project.
Yeah.
Getting
It
into
happens.
character. Well, I also love this business that he's doing here too. That was something that he completely made up. He's like, working on the sword and.
This is. Again, I love this moment. This paternal thing. Like, just shut up, kid. I need to handle this.
He's always a dad.
Actually, Bill, they are.
Well, it don't matter because I don't have a car that works.
But there is one in this town.
Parts. There are parts in this town.
Meaning that you could fix one up.
All right.
It gives in.
And I love just taking that time. Take that pause.
All right. It's on the other side of town. Now you help me go gather it, and maybe I can put something together that runs. But after this, I owe you nothing.
That's fine. A couple days from now, we'll probably be dead anyway.
And it's like opening handcuffs, but again, I see it as this almost tender moment between Joel and Ellie.
Stay right on my ass.
Can't miss it.
Another great Ellie line. Smart ass.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next.
Remember the rehearsal for all these scenes? So we would shoot these things in chunks. So we'd bring like Earl in and Ashley and Troy and just shoot we're gonna shoot the whole Bill sequence. And talking to Bill, and he's about to talk about a partner that he's had. We've talked, there was a question I brought up, is like, what kind of partner is this? And Earl asked, is Bill gay? And I said, well, he could be. I mean, it's really up to you.
Well, no, you gave the standard response of,
What do you think? Because I really want him to own it. I thought he was when I wrote the part, but I really wanted the actor to own it, and he did. I mean, he made that decision to make him a gay character. And again, it's not something we ever explicitly say, except for the magazine that Ellie steals.
Right. But again, instead of making that a point and something, it's just a cute little piece of exposition.
Well, and from a narrative structural standpoint, what Bill is there to show is, here's what happens when you survive on your own in this world. It's like you're alone, and miserable and a little bit crazy, and it's what could happen to Joel if he keeps going down this path of just doing whatever he takes to survive. And also, Bill is there to kind of give Joel the warning. It's like, you go down this world, you care for people, you will get hurt.
Hey! What I said to you when we walked down the steps?
And that's where Ellie has stolen a bunch of Bill's stuff.
I love that flips him off.
God damn it. You keep babysitting long enough and eventually...
I love that line of fixing the stupid pile. Because I feel like that's something a kid would say when you're trying to cover, when you're it's
Right.
nothing specific.
I was just stealing all your stuff.
Fix the pencils over here.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay the same cinematic.
Oh, this is the one where we abused Troy. I was like, you have to fly face first into the ground. And he's like, but I should roll. No, fly face first into the ground.
It was like, well, if I roll this way, then actually, they're like, it looks too ninja when you can't do it. So I literally just had to eat shit time after time again. It's like seeing stars. It was great.
Please tell me you're done!
Yeah, you guys are acting against nothing. There's nothing there.
And something we always had to remember was bring the tension back.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay the
Left to that, he closes a glass door like that's gonna do much.
Yeah, right.
So that worked out well.
Oh, the thing I love here is that, well, that Bill constantly brings up Tess, not knowing that
Right.
Tess is dead because Joel doesn't want to talk about it.
Right.
But here it gets to Joel. And this is something that you guys actually just improvised. That wasn't in the script, this big fight that happens here. It was much more low-key in the script.
Yeah, once he brings up Tess, that was something we kind of keyed in on.
Jesus. What, you know this guy or something?
Frank.
Who the hell's Frank?
He was my partner.
They're both kind of lying to each other. If you think about the previous scene, right? He mentioned this partner, but almost like, I didn't care about him, I let him go. And you realize that's not the truth at all. He
Right.
really cared for this guy, and this guy probably left him.
Right.
Yeah.
He's got
I love how clinical he is about this.
here.
With that look on his face says everything.
Well, that turn, too, that Earl did with, he realizes Joel's looking at him and he's being vulnerable right now, and he puts the mask back on.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, seeing that moment from Earl, I was like, yeah, we cast the right guy.
Well, fuck him.
And then that turn right there. Which again is kind of why Bill, what purpose Bill serves in the story, is to show that having those moments of emotion, there's nothing he feels, there's nothing but weakness.
Get out. Get out.
I love it.
That relationship between the two of you,
I
it
love
was so
it.
good. That's
Yeah.
what was great about the cast, is constantly having to switch from these really serious, dramatic vulnerabilities to playing tough, right? Because that's what you kind of have to do in this world, is let your humanity come out, but then learn when to shut that off to survive. And also, you're seeing, it's very subtle here, but you're starting to see this change in Joel, where he's given Ellie more and more responsibility. He's trusting her. Instead of just saying, stay out of my way, he's like,
Right.
I need your help.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay the
This is a good point that, you know, in case people weren't aware of the process. I mean, everyone at this stage, we had such great sets, even though it's kind of rudimentary, but they actually built a truck for us, and we used that truck so many times. But I think this was the last scene that we shot with Earl.
Yeah, and rehearsal, that I would try to give you guys as much of concept art and videos that we had,
Right.
so you can imagine the space, because you have nothing there to act off of, except each other.
That's right.
You guys have each other.
It's true.
And I love this exchange between Bill and Joel too, because you know it's Joel trying to kind of apologize for an awkward situation and trying to show some sensitivity to him, and Bill just completely glosses over it.
The thing with Joel that I kind of admire. Like, he can't come up with the right words. He can never come up with the right words. I was like, it's like a half sentence. He's like, so, yeah.
And Bill kind of finishes that for him, but it's
which really helps my writing. This theme comes in here because to show Joel's now alone with Ellie, but the relationship has changed. This is starting to become that theme we heard in the beginning with Sarah. Now we're getting into the first scene we ever shot, and this is your guys' edition right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was the first audition scene when I came in, when I read for you guys, along with another scene that I don't know if it's in the game or it
It's not in
probably
the game.
changed a little
It's
bit.
like the scene with the Walkman.
Yeah, the scene with the Walkman.
There's a scene. There was the scene kind of like it, but it's pretty different.
Back at Bill's. I mean, all this stuff was just lying there.
What else did you get?
Well, and I especially love this because, especially at this point, we had no idea who Bill really was.
That is actually before
How many times did we come back to this scene? Like at
God,
least 3 times.
Yeah, at least 3 times. I love what she says. I was like, hey, you know who this is? And the different versions of songs that we ran through with this too is great.
I'm sure your friend will be missing this tonight.
That's the guy on the cover is John Sweeney, one of our concept artists.
That's awesome. Is the centerfold also his penis?
We should have that unlockable. You could see what she's looking at.
Yeah. Get your subscription to Bearskin Magazine today.
I'm just fucking with you.
And the awkwardness of that moment.
But it's also such a great moment of levity between the two of them.
I don't know, that's kind of a way of her complimenting him or trying to bond with him.
Yeah.
And it's something I was very conscious of when like writing this stuff. It was like, this is making me uncomfortable here on the page. I have to leave it as is.
Yeah. That's your litmus test.
Yeah.
I love that. Not even tired. Cut to passed out. This is the first scene because it was part of that reveal trailer. It's the first scene that I ever saw put together fully, and I was just absolutely blown away how good it looked. It was the first time I'd actually seen, real flesh and bone put on Joel and Ellie.
And the yawn we added after the fact.
I remember that.
Because we were like, she doesn't have a yawn. She should have a yawn when she wakes up. And then you were yawning on the set, and we're all yawning because it's contagious.
I know, just watching that, I just yawned. I tried to be quiet about it.
I love that this moment of silence and kind of peacefulness is broken up by this.
Joel knows this trick. He knows it because he's done this before.
Right. Poor John Bentley. And I love, again, how that music is playing not as a score, but coming from the car. It's just great.
I believe that was Ruben that we hit and
Yeah,
had
that
him
was
fly,
Ruben.
fly off the truck like that.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay the same cinematic, or exit to the main menu.
This was also the first really dramatic scene we shot, and it became kind of the touchstone for how the characters should look when they're really pushed.
It's so interesting when she's, again, it's this moment of vulnerability when she says, I feel sick, and Joel's, again, being very didactic and pushing her away. She stands up for herself. This is the first time she stood up for herself.
How about, hey, Ellie, I know it wasn't easy, but it was either him or me.
And I love that line, it's either him or me. Come back to that.
And he can't do it. He can't admit that she saved his life.
Lead the way.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay the same
So this is, in the story, the first time Joel really is trusting Ellie and seeing her as pretty much an equal to him. He has to rely on her to survive in this world.
This is one of the first cinematics that we saw too, and we just, it's still one of our favorites. We keep coming back to it and laughing because I love this exchange between the two of them.
What about me?
You stay here.
This is so stupid. We'd have more of a fucking fighting chance if you let me help.
I am. You seem to know your way around a gun. You reckon you can handle that?
Well, I sort of shot a rifle before.
He's like, shit, rats, that's it? Fuck.
I love that line. Oh, shit, here's what we gotta work with.
We usually avoid these kind of cameras that rotate around something that are trying to do too much, but it felt like this moment kind of needed it.
Yeah, I love
It's
it.
a weird parent-kid moment.
Yeah.
But he's teaching her how to shoot to kill.
Get another round in there quick. Listen to me. If I get into trouble,
There's a really nice, when I watched like Ellie's performance, this balance between she's trying to be a hard ass, but you could see in her eyes she's kind of terrified of the situation.
Yeah.
But even in this, there's almost a little bit of excitement there too. Either whether it's about the reality of her killing isn't real, or if it's just I have an opportunity to make Joel proud.
Opening up, opening up.
You're welcome.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay the same cinematic, or
Such an interesting look on your face here, because it's almost like I did good, but then you feel horrified by it. So interesting.
It's like, even though Ellie's used to killing, used to seeing this stuff in this world, it was still important to show this is having an effect on her.
Right.
And you're going to see that kind of carry throughout the game.
Well, it also kind of carries over into this moment as well, too, because I realized what I just put her through. I love the way that, we took that away from her. It's like almost gingerly. It's like, give me that.
It's like, you can't really compliment it because...
Right. You
it's
did
just what
good.
you
Yeah,
have-
there's no
yeah.
pat on the back. But then I turn around and I give her this, and it's like you said, there's a sadness to it.
Yeah, it's sad that in this world, these are the things that you have to bond over. Like, here's your gun.
And that's the reward.
Yeah.
But that knot of understanding is great.
you completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay the same cinematic, or exit to the main menu. Next. X button. Select. Replay. Next.
Brandon and Najee.
There you go.
Yep.
Brandon, I think, had the hardest audition of anyone.
no kidding.
Because I literally almost took off his head. Not in this scene, not punching him. That fortunately was done by Ruben Langdon, who can punch way better than I can.
Leave him alone.
Najee, too, when he came in red for Sam, that had that...
It's all right. They're not the bad guys. Lower the...
Just this kid that's kind of terrified to live in this world.
Yeah.
Man, you hit hard.
Yeah, well, I was trying to kill you.
And these two characters are really showing... They're kind of a mirror of Joel and Ellie's relationship.
If you haven't noticed, they don't keep kids.
And it's another warning for Joel, like I did this whole arc for Henry and Sam. Of what's going to happen if you stick with this girl? You're going to go through what these two characters are going to eventually end up.
I do like that Sam is a character that seems genuinely scared, because a lot of the other characters can tend to be a little bit more badassy.
Right.
And he's young and he's scared. And I love that.
To me, it also comes across very sullen. Like
Yeah.
there's like just a little glimmer of hope and joy, but it's almost like anytime there is a moment of that, then Henry kind of takes that away from him.
It also gives Ellie an opportunity to play a mentor of sorts for him.
Yeah.
Be safer if we chat there.
All right, take us there.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next next.
Welcome to my office.
One thing that I think made Brandon such a great choice for this, and the right choice for this, is this scene, about how much he owned it and the pride that he had in showing off this wonderful camp that they had made for themselves, and kind of like trying to impress Joel, and Joel just come, you know, very nonplussed about the whole thing. He's like, oh, good for you. Yeah, you've done this.
And relax. We're safe.
Well, the interesting thing, I mean, the way I read it is like Joel is impressed, but he's not. He's trying not to show it. He's trying to still test this kid. But there's a lot of he sees himself in Henry.
Yeah. Very, very much so. This is, I remember we going back and forth about this because.
Oh yeah, because layout changed. Because initially they were going to go through the camp at night, and then we had to change the layout, so we had to go in and re-record these lines.
Well, and there's something on the reverse that it doesn't really matter, but when we shot this, the entire time that he was laying out this plan, I was just looking at him because I was like, I really care about your plan, kid. I care more about you. It's kind of like poker. You don't play the cards, you play the man.
Again, one of those fleeting moments where kids can be kids.
She doesn't seem bothered by all this.
Such a powerful line. And Joel completely just dismisses it. You guys were actually doing that in the background while we were doing this scene. This was so great. It wasn't like shot separately.
I know, we were just fooling around. You guys like, shut up.
It just seems like there's a lot of people putting their stock on the Fireflies these days.
Yeah, maybe there's a reason for that.
So you don't know.
I love this standoff, even though it's a sit-off almost between the two of them, where Joel's just pushing him for information just to see where this kid's grounded. That nod.
Yeah, the threat being so subtle, but it's there.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, again, that Brandon did with this that everybody else didn't do. They kind of really got in Joel's face, and he didn't. He didn't posture himself that much. It was just like, I'll take care of mine, you take care of yours. And also that he doesn't correct him about your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Joel doesn't correct him. He's not, she's not my daughter.
You and your girl, you want to join us. It goes down tonight.
I guess we best rest up then.
And I guess that's the most Joel's going to give him.
Yeah. That's all Henry needs. Joel sleeping again. These were my favorite scenes where I just got to sleep.
No, we're going to be moving fast, okay?
And the idea of these two pairs that are coming together.
And they were just, such great brothers. Brandon and Najee did such a great job together.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic replay. Next.
How many bullets do you have left?
I just remember it was funny because jumping off of this bridge, there's just
a rope?
a line of tape, and then you have to like jump off of it.
Because we were both stepping over it at first. They're like, no, this is like 50 feet down.
I was like, oh, so we got to do a whole thing.
It looks ridiculous what we're doing. It's like, with our arms above our head.
I know.
And this part, we're in the water. We had you on a cart.
That's right.
And we just pushed you across
Yeah.
mocap stage.
It was actually pretty violent being on that.
It was.
It was pretty scary. This was part of the audition scene that Brandon did that really just kind of helped us realize we had the right Henry.
He's awake.
Back to the salesman. It's like, hey, buddy, everything's okay. Everything's
I know.
all right.
I really like that about his character, that he's kind of a salesman.
You know, Sam's the one who spotted you. You guys are taking quite a bit of water. What's wrong? Henry! Get back, son! Hey. He's pissed, but he's not gonna do anything.
You sure about that?
Stop!
He's confident. He knows he can calm you down, but he needs Sam to stay out of the way.
Right, just in case.
Yeah.
Chance of making it, and you did. Coming back for you meant putting him at risk. Stay back.
I think there's already the change there. Joel knows it's true.
Yeah.
Joel wouldn't have come back for him.
And even when we were shooting this too, I mean, that's you really get into that moment, and every time that I felt that hand on my shoulder, it's almost like that Hulk moment where you realize, oh, I felt bad for letting you see that part of me, because so far I really haven't, in these moments, let that demon out. I've done what I've had to do, but this is just cold-blooded murder I'm about to do.
The thing with Henry, which Brandon really brought to it, which is making light of everything for Sam. Everything is done for Sam. I
Right.
think he really is intimidated. He is scared in the situation, but he's making light of it so Sam isn't as scared as he is.
Because the second that Sam sees that he's scared, Sam will be scared. Silver lining kid.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay the same cinematic, or exit to the main menu. Next. X button. Select.
This is the longest
Short
cinematic
scene.
in the game. I had to fit that in there. Quit this place from this, since we had it in the first trailer.
I can't quit you.
I remember when we first, the very, very beginning of this, when we like did the first table read through this and everything, and we talked about, I asked if there was going to be a moment of just a light shining through in this darkness, and you talked about this scene, and at that point it was just really kind of just real easy brushstrokes of what it was going to be, and it really came into fruition and became this
Well, all the characters here have their guard down. It's kind of unique because usually somebody's lying or somebody's hiding something.
Right.
And here's like everybody has their guard down.
They're just talking about motorcycles.
You two deserve a little privacy.
And you were really giving too on this. We spent a lot of time on this, and there was this one scene where you just kind of let me ramble about you know, to where we really feel like we're coming midway into a conversation. I don't remember what was said, but it was just this cool moment.
But you went more into the details of like with Tommy and where you went and the states and all that stuff. I think that really helped kind of make this, the following takes much more natural.
Right, without all the rest of that stuff, the preamble being there. But I love the turn that he gives right here. It's like the kids have gone to bed now, and we can just talk like adults.
Animation and lighting, right? If you don't capture these looks in the eyes, this scene doesn't work.
Right. The thing that I love about this is that he's set up a little office for himself, kind of like what Henry did. You know, it's this, I'm being official, trying to be a grown-up. He's still a kid, and we see it in this moment.
I really enjoyed working with Brandon and Najee. Just having them on set was so much fun. They're such
Najee
great
especially,
dudes.
like
Najee's hilarious.
We're doing this crazy scene, and we like cut, and then he's like just starting dancing or
singing whatever YouTube hot song at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, song bombing us all day.
They were so much fun. I just adore them too.
Is everything all right?
You got an opportunity to put so much of you into Ellie.
That's just because I can't write, so just listen to Ashley talk, and they're like, oh, that's a good line.
Have a good night.
That's giving me way too much credit.
How is it that you're never scared?
It's like putting up the defense, making joke of it, as Ellie does.
Yeah.
And then seeing when she needs to, because that's the only way she's going to cheer him up. She's going to open up to him.
And also, she kind of throws out that bone, like, you know, scorpions are pretty creepy. That's not what I want to talk about.
Being by myself.
Which again, all this stuff she's saying here plays into what happens later when she finds out Joel's trying to give her up, giving her away to Tommy.
Yeah.
Those things out there. What if the
And it's kind of the same thing we're seeing with Tess, to where she was, again, she knows what's going on, he knows what's going on, but it's looking externally for some kind of either comfort or hope or answer or something. And then they just always come up empty.
I guess one thing I'm just thinking about now, which is all the stuff Sam is going through because he's bitten, is probably the stuff Ellie went through when she was first bitten, because she thought she was going to turn. And it just happens that she was immune. But so that's what she kind of, all these realizations she's had.
I go back and forth. I mean, I'd like to believe it.
It's a powerful thing for essentially.
It's kind of
kid to
sad because
say.
that's not what Sam wants to hear. He
Right.
wants to hear that it's all going to be all right.
Right.
But she doesn't realize that's what
No,
he
death is terrible. It's a horrible, painful process, and you're all alone. You know.
Almost forgot. There. If he doesn't know about it, he can't take it away. All right.
this did make me sad because, you know, he spent that whole night alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, Henry didn't go back in there.
I let him sleep in, just like.
Yeah, let him sleep in.
Oh.
And that was the last conversation he had. And that always made me so sad after I read that. Because I was like, oh.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. And what would have happened if Henry had gone in there? I mean, the fact that Henry wasn't there, I mean, plays into, you know, the culmination of this scene where he's just racked with guilt.
I mean, one thing we were very conscious of when putting the story together is we would have these really kind of dramatic moments that change the characters significantly, and then we would cut to some more time in the future.
Yeah.
And so you don't get to see right afterwards what happened to it, and then you get hints of how this affected the relationship, which is what you get into the next gameplay sequence. And this whole thing is, it's a huge change in Joel here, because now he sees, this is what's going to happen to me. The same thing that's happening to Henry right now is what would happen to me if I'm going to keep going and let Ellie get hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's going to, after this moment, he makes the choice, like, I need to give her to Tommy.
I have no idea what that would do to a person to actually see that, to have to do that.
Yeah, I remember talking with Brandon about this when he's saying it's all your fault. He's not talking to Joel, he's talking to himself.
Yeah.
Okay, easy.
Yeah, the thing that's cool with this piece, Gustavo's music, is that you're carrying that weight. You're carrying the weight of that emotion of everything just happened onto the next scene, which even though they might not be thinking about Henry and Sam right this moment, but it's just that feeling is lingering going forward.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay.
I own that shirt.
I'm pretty
I
sure
still think
own
we
it.
should sell off our mocap suits for charity.
Unwashed.
Jeffrey Pierce,
The lady says.
Ashley Scott. Sorry, Ashley Hart.
Oh, yes.
Ashley Hart. She was married.
We didn't know the place was occupied. We're just trying to make our way through.
Through to where?
They're all right.
But you know these people?
Know him. My
The
goddamn
chemistry was so good between
The two of
you
them.
and Jeffrey.
It was amazing how well, and I mean, Jeffrey's just a few years older than me, but it was interesting playing the older brother to him. And yeah, we felt like brothers immediately. It was crazy.
Oh, well, Jeffrey came, I mean, we almost cast Jeffrey
Yeah.
as Joel. And then once, like, months later, we needed to cast Tommy. I was like, oh,
Well?
what's Jeffrey Pierce doing? That's what he meant.
Not blowing my head off.
Would have been embarrassing, considering you're my brother-in-law.
And Ashley Scott, she came really close to being cast as Tess. And
Yeah.
when we needed Maria, I was like, oh,
We
Ashley
got the
Scott.
perfect person.
There were no auditions for these roles.
I love this awkward setup of this is how he meets his sister-in-law. How he meets
Yeah.
Jeffrey's, you know, or Tommy's wife.
Story.
Why don't we bring him inside?
And you just get to see here now how Ellie's starting to become more secretive.
Well, also, it's
and
like
guarded.
the way they're standing and everything, it's like Ellie's kind of alone now. Like now it's like Joel is with Tommy and
There's no one familiar with Ellie.
You completed the cinematic. You can either continue to the next cinematic, replay the same cinematic, or exit to the main menu. Next. X button. Select.